The dream scenario is that we actually can create something that's going to help primary care to have a better, increase the quality of life of patients and also increase the quality of life of the prescribers. So that's the doctors, the nurse practitioners, and the team. So our solution today is to propose that we want to decrease inappropriate antibiotic prescriptions and we want to increase the quality of the prescriptions. And we have created an antibiotic prescription module for prescribers in primary care. And this is really special because it capitalizes on existing data platforms and it decreases the cognitive load for prescribers to have a smart decision support tool, as well as it creates an AMR surveillance system. So this is the first in class.
So as with many things in AMR, we have a market failure problem, right? So just as it's not financially beneficial for big pharma to develop and research new antibiotics, it's also not financially beneficial for hospitals or care providers like doctors to actually prescribe efficiently. It's just for them, it's just a cognitive load thing. Just get it done, see more patients. So we really think this needs to come top down from the health agencies to optimize the system and also support doctors in their prescribing habits, right? So if I can look at the data and see that in a region there's a certain first-line antibiotic way more effective than in the national average for a certain infection like a UTI, that's what they should prescribe. And this is what the system should tell them automatically and auto pre-select. This is not something that the clinician should have to look up manually by themselves.
So we have a patient that is coming into primary care and they're feeling very unwell. They have pain on peeing and urinary frequency. So Joe, the doctor, does a urine dipstick and diagnoses a urinary tract infection. However, Joe, as a doctor, is feeling rushed, feeling very tired, just wants to give the prescription and doesn't want to really look up any new information, doesn't have any idea about what's going on with community antimicrobial resistance, and so ends up writing a prescription the way that they've written prescriptions in the past 20 years.
You know, essentially the electronic medical records are really a reflection of the paper chart, which has existed for decades and decades. And so programmers took the paper chart and just made it electronic, right? Which is fine. It's a good first step. But the reality is in our digital era, we have so much more power, and we need to move to the next level. And I think a lot of it's and no offense to the programmers because they've done an amazing job with that transition, but I think there wasn't a lot of clinician input into how electronic medical records should work, and I think we're just getting to that stage where we're going to use the full potential of this digital era.
This is how it looks currently, and it's essentially taking an electronic version and basically moving up to a typewriter. So there's a lot of cognitive overload. This is a problem of writing prescriptions in primary care because 90% of them are written this way and 90% of prescriptions are written in primary care.
Number one, we're not going to start, Joe's not going to start by putting in the antibiotic directly, but by putting in the diagnosis at step one. And then at step two, immediately being offered from the data that exists that we used to build this product, get suggested an antibiotic, a first-line antibiotic that from the data we know works best for the specific community that Joe practices in. So the first-line antibiotic choice here is tied to the diagnosis and to all the information about the environment that Joe practices in. And she can just rubber stamp this and is done with a prescription, like of the first-line, most effective first-line antibiotic.
Yes, that brings us on to the business case. So we looked at this from the health system's perspective in terms of potential savings from more appropriate prescriptions. So this would lead to a reduction in the number of prescriptions for which the organism that's actually causing the infection is resistant. And by doing this, you reduce repeat appointments and you also would reduce some hospitalizations. So when we calculated this through using the data we have from Canada, we estimated that it would be about $2 cheaper on average for each case of urinary tract infection. And that adds up to $3.5 million per year across Canada because it's a very common infection. Set against that, we have the cost of actually developing this system. So we believe it would cost somewhere between $200,000 and $1 million to develop the system and perhaps another 100,000 to 200,000 per year to maintain it. So we believe this is a sustainable product, it's scalable to other common infections, and what we need now is some funding to fully develop, validate and pilot this in a single region.